So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here with you today for this, which is the third webinar that is being promoted by our firm, Kincaid, on a series of shipping and P&I events. We have already had sessions covering the topics of green shipping and cyber risks. And for this third webinar, we are going to cover a very interesting and important topic of ship registries and port state control. And today's topic will be presented basically by three highly qualified speakers, which I will introduce one by one by the time of their individual presentations. And following the individual presentations, we will then have a debate section under the moderation of my partner, Juliana Furtado. So during the event, all the participants will be free to add any comments or questions through the chat, and the speakers may either reply that in the end, or also may feel free to use the chat to address the responses to any questions made. Without further ado, I will start by just briefly mentioning that we will have as speakers, the first speaker of the day will be Captain Luiz Freitas, the Vice President of South America at International Registries, the Marshall Islands Registry. Second speaker of the day will be Engineer Rafael Cigarruista, General Director of Merchant Marine, Panama Maritime Authority. And the third speaker of the day will be Commander Wellington Nogueira Camacho, Legal Advisor at the Brazilian Navy Authority in the Directorate of Ports and Coasts. I will start introducing Captain Freitas, who will be our first speaker of the day. And Captain Freitas joined International Registries in Rio office as a country manager in 2012 after serving almost 40 years in the Brazilian Navy. During his naval career, Captain Freitas worked in many capacities afloat and ashore. His decorations include the Naval Order Merit Medal, Military Meritorious Service Medal, with 3 gold stars at the Tamandaré Merit Medal, among others. Captain Freitas holds a degree in Naval Science from the Brazilian Naval Academy, a master's course in Naval Warfare and Strategy from the Brazilian Naval War College, and has completed a doctorate level course in Policy, Strategy, and Strategic Planning from the Brazilian War College. His last 2 positions in the Brazilian Navy were as Harbor Master of Maranhão State between 2004 and 2006, Head of Maritime Casualty Investigation Department at the DPC, Directorate of Ports and Coasts, and he was promoted in 2016 to Vice President, South America of International Registry. Captain Freitas, the floor will be yours, and we'll be happy to hear about the roles of flag states, registration of ships and mortgage in a view from the Marshall Island Registry.
So thank you very much. And are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So very good morning to one and all present here. And let me stop my video, please, firstly. Okay. So, and many thanks for joining us today. So before I start, I would like to thank Kincaid and the person of its partner, Leite, for inviting the Marshall Islands Registry to speak in this webinar, sharing the floor with colleagues from the Brazilian and the Panamanian Maritime authorities. I am very pleased and honored to join you here. And the next 20 minutes, I will be walking you through the open registries and the Marshall Islands Registry. Anyway, so without further ado, let's move on the presentation. For general awareness, the Marshall Islands is a full member of the United Nations and signatory to the Convention on the Law of the Sea. The Convention is the main governing document for flag states and establishes the legal framework for international regulation of shipping. The Article 94 of the Convention describes the duties of the flag states, as you can partially see here. This another slide shows the listing of the primary duties of flag states as per the Convention. However, many of the items as safety at sea and crew manning, for example, are covered in detail by other conventions under the direction of the IMO or the ILO. Anyway, international law requires that every merchant ship be registered in a country called as its flag state. The flag state confers nationality to ships and implies what rights the ship enjoys, the obligations the ship may subject to, and the law of the state that governs the ship. Moving on, shipping registration is the process by which a ship is documented and given nationality of the country that the ship has been documented to. Any ship over 100 gross tons, irrespective of its type, must be registered. According to the Convention on the Law of the Sea, the states shall impose the necessary requirements to grant nationality to vessels and maintain a registry of all vessels authorized to fly their flag. Mortgage, a record in a public mortgage registry. They are insulated from political instability or other incidents and include satisfactory statutory provisions covering ranking of liens and also permit speedy deletion of a vessel. So the requirements for the valid creation of a mortgage are usually governed by the country where the vessel is registered. Moving on to the types of registries, depending on the references used, they may vary. For today's presentation, I choose the four categories listed here, which are the most accepted. The traditional registries, or national or closed, the open registries, the second national registries, and finally the hybrid registries. Starting with the traditional registries. They are administered by an individual country as a national registry for the registration of their own ships, flying their own flag, owned, operated, and manned by nationals of that country. In summary, the owner of the ship should necessarily be from the country of registration, and the place of business should be in the country of registration. As to the open registries, in simple words, they allow ship owners of other nationalities to flag and operate ships under their nation's flag. Ships may be built, crewed, and financed from anywhere in the world, but they also offer more incentives for registration, such as better economic and fiscal incentives for flagging. Moving on to the second national registries. The development of open registers started a global competition in cost reduction. The traditional registries reacted, developing their own international registries to remain competitive. Among them are the second national registries. They were created to exist together with the traditional register, but offering less operating costs for the ship owners while trying to combine both the former image of the national register. Let's say that. There are still some requirements regarding the crewing or installation of the company, the country, and I can give as an example the Brazilian Special Registry, which has crewing requirements. At last, we have the hybrid registries, which offer combinations of national and open registry features. They tend to maintain a nationality link between the beneficial owner or management of the vessel and the flag state, and tended to offer financial incentives and advantages like open registries. Another typical characteristic of hybrid registries is that crewing of seafarers from foreign countries is freely permitted. As examples, we can mention the Norwegian and Danish international shipping registers, which allow foreign owned or controlled vessels under certain circumstances, and also the German and the French international shipping registers, which do not contain crewing requirements. With all of that in mind, we see in this chart issued by Clarksons in June 2021 the top 10 flag states. The top three are open registries, Panama leading the ranking, followed by Liberia and the Marshall Islands. The list is completed with Hong Kong, Singapore, Malta, Bahamas, China, Greece, and Japan, being Malta and Bahamas open registries as well. And moving on, let's start talking about the Marshall Islands Registry. International Registries, Inc., IRI, dates to 1948, when Mr. Eduardo Stettinius, together with his colleagues in the US government, saw the future need for a peacetime shipping registry system, administered by a private company. Mr. Stettinius is this gentleman seen here at the Yalta Conference at the end of the World War II, when he was Secretary of State. Anyway, IRI's predecessor corporation was the Liberian Services, formed in New York on 1949. IRI was formed in 1990 as the parent corporation for its various affiliates and entered into an agreement with the Marshall Islands to develop a new maritime corporate program. In 2000, IRI separated from the Liberian Registry to solely provide administrative and technical support to the Marshall Islands Maritime and Corporate Registries. We provide a broad spectrum of services for the shipping and financial services industries. As to the Marshall Islands Maritime Administrator, worth to note that according to the Solas Convention, administration means the government of the state whose flag is the ship entitled to fly. Anyway, the Marshall Islands Registry program was initiated by the Marshall Islands government in 1988. The government appointed the trust company of the Marshall Islands, CMI, as the maritime administrator, and in 1990, IRI, as the United States-based affiliate of TCMI, was delegated the responsibility to provide the administrative and technical support to the Marshall Islands Maritime and Corporate programs. Today, IRI is headquartered just outside Washington, D.C., in Reston, Virginia, USA, and operates 27 offices in major shipping and financial centers around the world. As to the relationship with the United States, both countries have full diplomatic relations. This relationship started in 1944, when the United States assumed the administrative control of the Marshall Islands following the end of the World War II. In 1983, the United States promoted the independence of the peoples of the Thrush Territory in the Pacific. This resulted in the signing of the Compact of Free Association Act of 1985 with the Republic of the Marshall Islands, which gained independence in 1986. Last amendment was signed in January 2020, as you see here in this slide. Under the compact, the United States has full authority and responsibility for security and defense of the Marshall Islands, including its flagged vessels. This gives our fleet a unique feature in the world, which is being able to count on the protection of the United States. This is very important in the current days. Anyway, since its creation in 2000, the Marshall Islands Maritime Registry has had significant growth and now exceeds 182 million gross tons, with more than 4,900 vessels registered. This graph shows the sharp growth of the registry in terms of vessels in light blue color and in gross tons in dark blue color. And this another one shows the types of ships that make up the Marshall Islands registered fleet. We note that most of the fleet is made up of bulk carriers and tankers, but we also have a strong presence in the offshore or in other activities. As to the vessel age, seagoing vessels of any tonnage engaged in foreign trade and vessels under construction are eligible for registration in the Marshall Islands. Vessels should be under 20 years of age at the time of registration. However, waivers may be granted for older vessels, depending upon their condition and classification. The fleet age is the leading indicator of a greener fleet, and the Marshall Islands Registry comprises the world's youngest and greenest blue water fleet on the planet, with an average age of 9.5 years. So based on Clarkson's research, World Fleet Register, which was issued in May 2021. Moving on to the classification. So the classification by a society recognized by a flag state administration is usually a condition for the registration of a ship with its flag state. As a matter of quality, the Marshall Islands Registry only recognizes societies governed by quality management systems certified by the IX, International Association of Classification Societies. Here you see the classes that are recognized by the Marshall Islands. Moving on, the Shipping Industry Flag Stage Performance Table 2020-21 edition, as you see here, brings together data regarding the performance of flag states against specific criteria, including port stage control, ratification of conventions, and IMO meeting attendance. The green and black squares indicate where a flag administration did not meet the relevant minimum requirements as set by the port stage control authorities to be included in an MOU whitelist or the Call Ship 21 program. Red squares highlight potential negative performance. Marshall Islands, as you can see here on the third line, has no negative indicators of performance. The table clearly indicates that distinctions between traditional flags and open registers are no longer relevant, with many open registers among the very top performers. Moving on to the port stage control, it is the inspection of foreign ships in national ports to verify that the condition of the ship and its equipment comply with the requirements of international regulations and that the ship is manned and operated in compliance with these rules. There are 9 regional agreements on port stage control signed, also called Memorandum of Understandings or MOUs. And the United States Coast Guard maintains its own PSC regime, the Call Ship 21. Latin America is covered by the Acuerdo de Viña del Mar. Anyway, the results of all port stage control inspections are collected and evaluated regarding the performance of flag states and classification societies. The rankings are regularly published in formal lists to reveal to the public whether ships flying a certain flag or classed by a certain classification society are notorious for frequent deficiencies or having more satisfactory records. With that said, let's see the Marshall Islands performance in the main MOUs, starting with the Paris MOU. The Marshall Islands achieved the ranking in the top 3 on the white list of the Paris MOU, as reflected in its annual port stage control report released in the beginning of this month. The Marshall Islands 3-year detention ratio was the lowest among the top 3 largest registries. The Marshall Islands also ranked in the top 10 on the white list of the Tokyo MOU's annual report, released in April. As you see in the table in the upper right corner, the Marshall Islands 3-year detention ratio was again the lowest among the top 3. I'd like to say that the correct reading of this list is from the bottom to the top. As to Australia, the Marshall Islands also ranked in the top 10 of the Australian Maritime Safety Administration, according to the Port Stage Control Australia 2020. And once again, with the lowest 3 years detention ratio among the top 3. And last but not the least, in May 2021, the Marshall Islands became the only registry in the world to achieve the Call Ship 21 status for 17 years in a row. Neither of the other 2 largest registries achieved the Call Ship 21 status, as you can see here in this list. As to the Call Ship 21 enrollment, less than 20% of foreign flag vessels that operate in the United States meets the strict eligibility requirements of the program. And we are proud that of those that qualify, 34.6% are flagged by the Marshall Islands. This table shows the number of ships enrolled in the program per country of registration. And as you can see, the Marshall Islands has more than double of ships enrolled compared to the second position. Actually, the current number is 1,215 vessels enrolled today. Moving on, shipping requires a global presence. With that in mind, we have decentralized operations, and our customers are provided with 24-hour worldwide services through a network of 27 offices fully staffed. This decentralization means, in other words, that customers can work in their local time zones and in their own language, as you see here. Moving on, this slide shows some of the decentralized services we provide, among them vessel registration, seafarers identification, marine safety, regulatory, so on. Anyway, keeping the ships moving is in everyone's interest. Moving forward to technical and marine safety, evaluation and monitoring of performance of ROs are carried out through the RO Oversight Program. The program establishes a system to confirm an RO service complies with international and national requirements. As to the marine safety, all Marshall Islands vessels are subject to annual inspection, among others. The vessel and operator risk assessments are conducted on a monthly basis to identify risks and chances of a vessel being detained for eventual non-compliance with international and national requirements. The registry also keeps a long-term vessel condition monitoring in order to improve the fleet quality and performance. Moving forward, as already mentioned, the flag state has overall responsibility for the implementation and enforcement of international maritime regulations for all ships flying its flag. This is done through the flag state inspections performed by our inspectors worldwide. The main objectives of flag state inspections are to confirm compliance with the applicable national and international standards and to identify gaps in the operational management of vessels flying the Marshall Islands flag. Moving on, the purpose of the Marshall Islands Marine investigation is to promote safety of life and property at sea and the protection of the marine environment with the objective of preventing that in the future occur similar marine casualties or incidents. So we try to prevent repetition. So the Marshall Islands investigation does not have as its objectives the determination of a civil or criminal liability, and they are conducted in accordance with the laws of the Marshall Islands, the IMO Casualty Investigation Code, and as appropriate all other applicable IMO conventions to which the Marshall Islands is a party. All investigation reports are submitted to the IMO. And finally, the Regulatory Affairs Service Area oversees the fleet administrator compliance with all IMO and ILO conventions and the relevant codes. Marshall Islands, as you know, is a signatory to all major international conventions. In conclusion, the checks and balances put in place by the IMO and enforced by the world's MOUs means that owners and flag states have raised the standards in recent years. There are still improvements to be made by many flags and owners, you know, but it is inaccurate to see all open registries through the same lens. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for your attention.
Captain Freitas, we are the ones to thank you for your participation. I must highlight that you are a very active participant in many different types of seminars related to shipping, to the shipping industry in Brazil, and you are always representing well not only Marshall Island but open registries in general. And we are very happy to have you here as a speaker, bringing us such relevant data and information, which unfortunately, as the time was short, you had to go through very quickly. But I would like to highlight to the participants that your presentation and actually the recording of this webinar will be available to all probably by next week. So it will be good to share also with all the participants your presentation and relevant details. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to pass the word to our second speaker of the day, which is Engineer Rafael Cigarruista. And just before that, I will briefly introduce that Rafael holds a degree in nautical engineer and major maritime transportation from the Nautical School of Panama. He also has advanced training related to quality systems, casualty investigations, arbitration, and higher education. Engineer Cigarruista made his first labor entry as a deck officer and then as a first officer. And later in the Panama Maritime Authority, he was assigned as a director in charge and deputy director of the General Directorate of Seafarers. He also held positions of nautical inspection and port state control officer and he then leaves the Panama Maritime Authority to occupy an assignment of technical manager and field inspector in the company Panama Marine Survey and Certification Services. He is a college professor, a naval expert in Second Maritime Court of Panama, and also served as naval expert for different firms in Panama, also working as a consultant and casualty investigator. Mr. Cigarruista, it is a pleasure to have you here with us today, joining us from Panama, and we will be very delighted to hear your speech on ship registries, flag inspection, marine casualties, and port state control within a view of the Panama Maritime Authority. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Luca. Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well and healthy. I would like to express my appreciation to those involved in planning, organizing, and indeed contact all of us. They make it happen. The pandemic has changed our way of living, from the way our children go to school, working out at the gym, what a surprise, and the methodology we use at work. Having said that, these platforms, video conference, and electronic means are the new era. Special thanks to Luca for invitation. And finally, thanks to the other speakers. Pleasure on my side, sharing with you this floor. Luca, could you share the video, please?
Certainly.
Panama has positioned itself since 1917 as a leader in the maritime industry, facilitating the transit of world maritime trade. We move international cargo through 5 major container ports and 22 minor ports throughout the country, keeping an important position in Latin America with the first place in container movement and more than 7.5 million TEUs in 2020. In spite of very difficult times at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have maintained our commitment to seafarers by designating them key workers whose work contributes to the global economy. We have repatriated 16,000 crew members of various nationalities, and we have been able to recover more than $2 million in salaries owed to the seafarers. We have continued to support the preparation of future professionals of the maritime industry by sponsoring academic and practical training. We have updated and digitalized our platform of services, which has reduced processing times and benefited a paper-free environment. As a country, we prioritize compliance with the Memoranda of Understanding on Maritime Safety and Security, achieving important objectives to the Panamanian fleet. The country has been a member of the International Maritime Organization's Category A since 2002. In addition, Panama has presented its candidacy for re-election to the Council for the 2022-2023 term. Customer service and global expansion are fundamental objectives for the Panama Maritime Authority. Proof of that is the inauguration this year of a new technical office in Hong Kong, thus maintaining worldwide coverage with 53 consulates and 25 international technical offices in charge of merchant marine and seafarers. We flag 16% of the world's fleet and are committed to asserting our place as the world's largest ship registry.
Thank you very much, Luca. I will share my screen now. Please confirm once you have my PowerPoint. Give me a second.
All right.
I'm sharing now. There you go.
That is okay. Yes.
Do you have it now?
We have it now. Yes.
Good. Thank you. Right. to start with my presentation, I'm gonna share with you guys few facts from our registry. As you have seen on the video, we have 60% of the world market share. We are leading, or we are the #1 flag since 1993. We are category A at the IMO. We have, let's imagine, we have in records over 45,000 mortgages. None of them has been questioned or have been, challenged on any international court of law. So it gives to our clients the certainty that our country provides the security they need on their investments. We are certified body, or we are certified institution 2001 2015 since 2010. So we have 10 years in a row been under ISO. Something which I would like to mention here, because it's very important on our approach nowadays. We have on board over 318,000 seafarers which are inactive. So it means that during the pandemic, as you saw in the video, we have been managed to repatriate as a country and as a flag state over 16,000 crew members. This is something I would like you to take into consideration, because nowadays we have all these issues with vessels, being abandoned and the salaries not being paid to the seafarers, and this represents to us a concern that needs to be solved. As a whole industry, flag states cannot lead with this alone. We need all stakeholders to be involved. For instance, also a very important point to raise here is that we have been managed to recover over 2 million in terms of salaries, and we have repatriated about 100,000 crew members, from different places, and few of them are paid by our government. So that's important, for the rest of the industry to understand that we have a problem with the crew members on board which are stranded, and this is still today, even though the pandemic seems to be, in some places overpassed, but still in some countries not. Right, few facts also about our fleet, or how our fleet is composed internally. We have the big numbers in terms of bulk carriers. Actually, we represent 22% of the share market in terms of bulk carrier. We are leading here. Fully containers, oil tankers, chemical tankers, gas carriers. So we have very complex fleet, and we are expanding in other sectors that later on you will be informed about it. As I said before, legal certainty and sustainability growth, 60% of the world market share. Something which I would like to mention here as well is that when we become the general director, we engage on a revision of our business model. As you have seen, Panama has been leading the market from a long time ago, and we cannot just rest on that fact. Big branches like Kodak, BlackBerry, Blockbusters, they didn't revise their business model, and where they are today, they are gone. So we understand this, and we engage in a very deep analysis and in a very broad analysis, and we engage on a new approach, or we engage in a new reconstruction of our business, as I said before, and we came with 4 main pillars. We are working on the re-engineering of our processes. We are investing in technology and innovation. We are looking forward to improve our compliance, which, by the way, is in a good rate today. However, we want to do it better. We don't want, people around questioning the name of our country, even though in the past some situation happens. And I guess none of the flag which are providing the service to ship owners are, are excluded of having a catastrophe on a vessel or having a dispute on a court of law. International expansion and customer service is one of our main pillars as well. We have today over 8,600 vessels representing 236.2 million in terms of gross tonnage. Indeed, we are growing. We are representing, or we are reporting 2.40% growth compared with the end of 2020, sorry, where we add to our fleet almost 2 million in terms of gross tonnage. So as you have seen, even though the economy somehow is slow a little bit, Panama still leading, Panama still growing, and we are going strong. Our expansion, as I said earlier, we have 14 technical offices around the world, taking care of all the matters related to the statutory certification, inspections, classifications matters. We do have 53 consular offices, which is an advantage because you always have, as a ship owner or as a part of our client, you have the support of the country. You have the diplomatic body, which is providing you support when it's needed. Ship owners always come to our offices with different matters, not only detention of port state control, but also legal disputes and situations with crew members. And that is when the diplomacy or that is when the consulate offices are very important. None of the rest of the international open registry, because this is the way we call it nowadays. Others are somehow, old-fashioned terminology, but today we are an international open registry which complies with all requirements stipulated in convention as per the IMO organization. And apart from that, we have around 18 different offices which provide also support to crew documentation related only to STCW documents. So at the end of the day, you have a very vast network which provides a solution or support to the ship owner. Again, you have seen on your screen the International Chamber of Shipping opinion about the flag state performance. And as you have seen here, we have been listed, in a way where we are somehow, at the end of the day, the International Chamber of Shipping is not telling the membership where to go on or which flag they have to use on their own fleet. However, this table provides with sort of reference to them any flag which is not listed in such a way as may represent risk to the investment, risk to the operation. Therefore, the ship owner should consider this once they go and select the provider in terms of ship registration. Talking about innovation, technology as part of our pillar, we are right now in the process of creating an internal software which is gonna process, which is gonna be involved in the process of registration of the vessel from the moment the application enters our system till the moment the ship registration certificate is issued. But not only there, it will go beyond, because the mortgages, the title, the ownerships, and every single document will be just issued electronically, not in paper. So we are going paperless and using the new, like I said before, the new era is here. So we are using electronic signature, which provides in a real time information to authorities and all parties involved, which is cost effective and very much accepted nowadays. Talking about the statutory documentation on board our vessels, we are also, investing in our eSegumar platform. Every single document related to statutory, related to classification society is gonna be, again, electronic certificates, and this will provide, in a way of business model, this provide advantages to the ship owner, because instead of having the authorities on board the vessel going through the massive amount of documents that nowadays the vessels are having, the ship owners may be able to send all documents on electronic format before they arrive to the port. So it helps the master, the crew, to reduce the burdens or the overload in terms of working hours. Remember that we are talking today, according to the Maritime Labor Convention and all other regulations related to the labor organization on resting hours. So we should not go in on the same way, putting more weights to the crew on board. They have enough already with their tasks related to the cargo, to the safety of the vessel, and the navigation. So we, flag states, should not put more weights on their shoulders. Talking about the registration of the vessel, the official documents, well, we have introduced nowadays the QR. So in a very simple way, from your own cell phone or device, any authority or anybody could scan the QR and may obtain the information in a real time, and verify the status of the vessel with our flag state. In other words, you will have information in a real time, which again provide adding value to the ship owners. As flag state, we do have responsibilities to inspect our vessels. As you have seen before, we have over 8,000 vessels, which represent a massive amount of inspections, monitoring, and follow-up. We have over 2,000 flag inspectors duly authorized by the government, posted on the main ports around the world, so they provide the follow-up to our fleet as requested by the III code as part of our responsibilities as flag states. In terms of monitoring our fleet, this is something that I would like to stress here, because we are talking about international compliance, due diligence, international sanctions, and so on. Well, we do have about 6,181 vessels, which the LRIT regulations apply. So we have 90% of our fleet, 100% in compliance with that regulation. In other words, we do exercise control in our fleet. We do know where are our vessels every time. The international standard requires from flag states to comply with within the 75% to 95%. Out of this, we may have problems, but between this framework, we are still in good compliance. This screening is going on daily basis, 4 positions per day per vessel, but also we screen the 6,181 vessels on weekly basis. In other words, we do guarantee compliance with the International Maritime Conventions, and we do control, follow up, and monitor our fleet. In terms of port state control, we do have an overall compliance within 2021 of 96.66%. So imagine, we end of 2019, we had over 16,000 inspections in our fleet. end of 2020. Of course, it was reduced due to the fact that the COVID-19, somehow create some obstacles to port state control inspectors and other regulatory bodies to go on board the vessels. But still, within 2021, we are in a very good rate, improving in some places. Of course, in some others, we have to improve. However, in a massive fleet like this, there are a lot of work to be done every day. Here today, we have obtained, look to this number, we have obtained 6,446 inspections in our fleet. We have got 217 detentions, which is not a bad number. Of course, we're looking forward to improve, introducing new techniques, which are working fine so far, providing us a good compliance, as you have seen before. However, still some vessels detained and some items to be corrected. Here you have seen on each of the MOUs, which is the rate or the performance we have. We know, as I said before, the job's still there. Recognized organizations are part of the problem or the solution. Crew members also, as well as the ship owners. There, as a government, as a flag state, as a flag administration, same situation with the ship stranded at sea, with the crew members stranded at sea. Same situations we have here with the results or the standard of the vessel. We need the ship owner and the rest of the stakeholders to be part. Once they go to the P&I companies to get the insurance or to get the coverage, once they go to the classification society and applies for a statutory certificate or the class certificate, once they go to the vetting, once they go to the charter, everybody has to do their part. So we improve, as a group. In terms of maritime accidents, these are the numbers on our fleet. And why I'm sharing this very confidential information is because I want to raise the subject that accidents on the international merchant fleet are rising. I'm sure you guys, which are lawyers, some of you are part of the P&I clubs, or some of you have been involved on this legal dispute, you have seen it. And we have not, or we should not walk away from this situation. We, as a responsible country, as a responsible flag state, we are reporting this to the IMO. Look to this number. We have been able to reduce to 2019 just to 11 very serious incidents. 2020, after the pandemic, you see the number. 2021 till end of June, see the number. Why this is happening? Well, we have some theories. Crew members still more than expected at sea. We are spoiling the crew members. This has to be stopped. How we stop this? Again, we all have to add a value. We all have to do our part. Apart from this, like I said before, recognized organization, classification societies, vetting, insurers, internal audit, flag state inspection, port state inspections. We were not able to travel. We were not able to go at sea. This is the result. Too many accidents, too many incidents are happening on board the international fleet. So we have to be careful with these numbers. A comparison between the whole year 2020 and 2021. This is in terms of the Marine Casualty Investigation Code, which at the end is the responsibility of the country. Look on the marine incident. The blue is 2020 and the red is June. See the numbers, right? Marine casualties, again, too much. Very serious marine casualties, still. And suicide, which is something that is becoming a very sensitive matter. The crew members are having difficult time on board. And numbers, you see, within 2020, we have just 5, Now, in the middle of 2021, we have already 4. This is something which should raise our alarms. Type of marine casualties you have seen here, and something which by the end of the day creates a very or creates an alarm in our own investigations or in our own analysis. Natural death, 17. Plus the 5 suicide, plus the missing, 12. We don't know the missing. The missing probably was suicide as well. Probably the guy just walked over and jumped over the side. Other suicide are those which are found committing the act against themselves. So the numbers are very sensitive. We are reporting this to the ILO and to the IMO. I guess other flag administrations are having the same issue. Last but not least, we are part of BINCO, Intertanko, Intercargo, Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, and the International Association of Drilling Contractors. We have understand as well that as a flag state, as a part of the industry, we have to be in touch with all stakeholders so we understand what is happening out there and provide solutions to all of you. Thank you very much. This is all my presentation. Sorry if I extend the time, Luca, and I'm open to any questions the floor may have later on. Thank you.
Many thanks, Rafael. It was a pleasure to have you here with us and making this presentation. Panama is not only a very beautiful country, but such a relevant flag for the international shipping industry. And you brought us some impressive numbers, results, statistics, concerns, and we are also very happy to see the continuous efforts for improvements and also the developments towards electronic registration and paperless operations. So we were very happy to have you here. And I could not also leave this without mentioning how important is the role of Panama also in terms of operation towards the canal for the shipping industry, and as out of curiosity for all the participants. And you please correct me if I am wrong, but I believe in Panama, the operations through the canal is something that we normally see otherwise in all the places around the world, where the pilot in the Panama Canal is actually taking the control of the vessel. He is in the command of the vessel. And we normally see in other places, in normal operations, the pilot is a mere assistant to the master, but in the Panama Canal, he is taking control of the vessel during the transit. Thanks once again for your presentation. We are going to hear a bit more of you during the questions and answers. And now I am going to pass the words to Captain Nogueira, representing the Brazilian Directorate of Ports and Coasts, Captain Wellington Nogueira Camacho. He has a graduation in Naval Sciences and in law. He has a post-graduation in naval sciences by the Navy War College and also in hydrography and navigation and environmental law. He has a master's in law in International Maritime Law Institute in Malta, and he is currently, at least until tomorrow, if I am not wrong, the legal advisor at the Directorate of Ports and Coasts, and he has been occupying that role since 2013. Captain Nogueira, we are delighted to have you here with us. You are such a relevant participant in other events and seminars. It's always a pleasure to hear you. And now we would like to have your words on port state control and international agreements for the inspection of foreign ships in national ports, basically focusing on the Viña del Mar agreement. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's start. Captain Freitas,
and Mr. Rafael Cigarista, congratulations to their presentation. Dr. Juliana, I'm delighted to take a part at this webinar, and I thank the Kincaid team for the invitation. And on behalf of Mr. Lucas Marques, I would like to show my greetings to those who are watching our conference right now. So, my focus will be to deliver a simple presentation showing the attributions of Brazilian Maritime Authority with regard to port state control inspections and his participation in the MOU or agreement of Viña del Mar. So in this slide, we can see that in accordance with Brazilian Constitution, the main activity of Brazilian Navy is concerned to defense of the state and to guarantee of the powers and maintenance of the law and order. However, in second place, the Brazilian Navy has subsidiary attributions which are defined by supplementary law and maritime legislation as well. We will be covering these assignments in this webinar. So, in this sense, as provided for such supplementary law, the Navy has as attributions to guide the and control of merchant state and its related activities with interest of national defense, to provide the safety of navigation in waterways, and to contribute to formulation and conduct of national policies relating to the sea, and to carry out and supervise the compliance of law and regulations at the sea and on the island waters under the coordination with other organs or federal executive powers or other agents when it becomes necessary due to its special skills. And also to cooperate with federal agencies with respect to the repression of crimes of national or international repercussion regarding the use of the sea and also island waters and ports there. And also for this reason, Maritime Authority is a Navy commander has the power to deal with the ISO set out in this article, being assigned as Maritime Authority for this purpose. Our Admiral, Fleet Admiral Almir Ganier Santos plays two roles in the Navy. He is a Brazilian Navy commander and Brazilian Maritime Authority tools. He has the task of accomplishing missions concerning to the national defense and also typical duties regarding to Maritime Authority. The Director of Ports and Coasts is representative of the Brazilian Maritime Authority in matters related to the American ship Navy, including training and certification of seafarers according to STCW Convention. In the same way, he has been responsible for most of rules and regulations regarding safeguard and safe of navigation at the sea and land waters, as well as protecting the waters against pollution from vessels, as we see ahead. So in this simplified organization chart, we have the Brazilian Maritime Authority, Admiral Ganier, and his representatives, each one with their specific attributions. Our port states are located in the captaincies, we can see here. And in our Directorate of the Ports and Coasts, DPC, the captains are spread. Our port states are located in capitals and directorate. And the capitals are spread throughout Brazil, and directorate the ports and coasts is placed in Rio de Janeiro. In slide 8, here, in this slide, we can see how the representatives are distributed throughout Brazil. In red, we have our captaincies and our 9 naval districts around Brazil. And the law 9537 of 97 lays down that the safe of navigation in waters under national jurisdiction, and set also provision on powers of the Brazilian Maritime Authority. So it's possible to note that Maritime Authority has the power to promote the implementation and enforcement of this law in maritime zones, as well as inland waters, in order to ensure the safe of navigation, the safeguard of human life at sea, and the prevention of environment pollution arising out of vessels, in order to ensure vessels, platforms, and their support facilities. And through this slide, we can see that the number of IMO conventions ratified by Brazil, and which are carried out by the Maritime Authority and regulated through the standards of Maritime Authority, norms. We can see that safe of navigation, Undo Solas, SAR Convention, Load Lines, both Viña del Mar, Agreement of Viña del Mar, and safeguard of human life at sea. We can see tonnage and salvage convention, STCW, and to prevention, we have intervention convention, ballast water and fueling system, London Convention, CLC, and many others conventions. And also law decrees, IMO resolutions, Conselho of National Environment Affairs, in normative instructions, and in law 9966 of 2000 lays down the prevention, control and surveillance of marine pollution caused by oil spill and other harmful or dangerous substances in waters under national jurisdiction. It also regulated by CNC, OPSC 90, and Marpol 73 and 78, and established in Article 27 that for compliance of this law are responsible Maritime Authority through his competent organization with the following responsibilities: supervising ships, platforms, and their support facilities, and onboard cargoes of a harmful or dangerous nature, applying fines and lawbreakers within the scope of their competences. This is our homepage. We have currently 33 standards of Maritime Authority regulating all those conventions that we have seen before, and these are and our norms. And in this slide, we can see that concerning Brazilian port state control, the basic legislation is UNCLOS, in Article 94 and 219, dealing with respectively with ship registry, duties, and of flag state and port states, and the last one related to marine pollution. IMO resolution 1138/31, Viña del Mar 2020, law 9537 of 1997, elastic Norman 7, and also others Norman 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And this article of the last brings to us the definition of naval inspections and that consists in with an administrative activity carried out by Port State Control, which goals are monitoring compliance with the aforesaid law, international conventions ratified by Brazil, resolutions of time and decrees, and also norms. With regard, of course, to safe of navigation, safeguard of human life at sea, and also prevention of environmental pollution arising from vessels, platform and their support facilities. So, in respect to this slide, we can see that in order to make it standard of maritime authority, the law gives to us the possibility to make standards for carrying out naval inspection and surveys, to carry out naval inspections, to carry out surveys directly or through delegation to specialized entities. These entities are classification societies that we have in our page as well. So, in respect to maritime authorities to Viña del Mar, on November 5 of 1992, during the 6th meeting of the Operational Network for Regional Cooperation of Maritime Authorities of Americas program, with a grounded on a resolution number 5, the Latin American Agreement on Control of Ships by Port State Control was approved. Such agreement was crucial to the at international level because it was the first framework agreement of an operational nature approved by an emerging region. Currently, the members of the Latin American Agreement of the Del Mar are Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Ecuador, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, and Honduras, and República Dominicana, and Guatemala. So we have a total of 15 states members. The moving at the moment, there is a basic principles, and we can see that to comply with the requirements established in international maritime conventions, and as addressed below, to inspect at least 20% of foreign merchant vessels. As a general rule, ships will not be inspected within 6 months of a prior inspection in a mole port, unless there is a relevant ground for it, to avoid improper detention or delayed vessels voyage. And inspections are always unexpected. This is a first principle of the meaning. And Viña del Mar brings to us all those conventions that only one was not ratified by Brazil. This concern is CLC 1992 Convention on Oil Pollution. And I mark here NLC 2006 because it came in force in Brazil in May of this year, 2021. And here we can see that the goals of Port State Control to comply with the conventions. And according to this slide, we can see that the annual report was expected 4,419 inspections that have been carried out by now. Visa Brazil has carried 827 inspections, representing 18.71% of the total inspections. It's a great amount of inspections to us. And as said before, that we have to to release to carry out 20% of the Fahrenheit vessels that come to Brazil. So the total every year we get to inspection more than 20% of the all ships come to Brazil. And we can see that we had only one detention. And in this chart, we can see that it's possible to note throughout the area covered by the agreement of Viña del Mar that Singapore, Bahamas, and Cyprus flags have not been detained. On the other hand, those that had detentions, Marshall Island, have the lowest percentage of detention in relation to the total number of the ships inspected under its flag, followed by Hong Kong, 0.3, Liberia, 0.6%, and Panama, 0.7. Different of Rafael that was 0.8, but that's it. It's our by 19 of July 2001. Okay. And this is another chart. This is a percentage of the ships that inspections carry out in blue in Brazil, and in the total of the ships arrived in our ports. Sorry, and this is all the inspections carried out over the agreement of Viña del Mar, Viña del Mar. So this slide, we can see that merchant ships on solace by flag, and Panama is the first one in maritime casualties or accidents or facts of navigation. And second come Brazil with 28, Deutsche 16, and the next one is Liberia. This chart is
Brazil by this naval district and first district and 8th district were the most district that have taken accidents in from 2020 to 2021. So concluding, port state inspections are important tools to prevent accidents in Brazil jurisdictional waters and in foreign ports, and so far as the requirements established by IMO are met. And the port state works have been increasingly specialized due to new technologies and are increasing more and more with the conventions and the resolution of IMO incorporated into the Brazilian legal system. And the last 95% of our imports and exports have been took place through the sea, and to ensure the safety of navigation, safeguard of human life at sea, and the prevention of pollution from ships, the port state controls are essential to fulfill these goals. Thank you.
Commander Nogueira, we are the ones to thank you not only for the presentation, but before our debate starts, I want also to express on behalf of our firm and all the participants here, basically all the shipping industries and attorneys in Brazil, express our gratitude and our compliments for such a competent and relevant work you have performed as a legal advisor at the Directorate of Ports and Coasts throughout the last years. We wish you a lot of success in your new role and your new challenges in Brasilia, which will start on August. So hope to continue in touch. And once again, thank you very much for all that you have done. I will pass the words now to my partner and moderator of the debates, Juliana Furtado, who may start, as we have still some minutes left, Q&A section on the debates covering the topics that we have just seen. Juliana, please.
Hi, good morning to you all. Thank you for the excellent presentations. I have seen that we had some questions already in the chat, and some of them have been answered. But I have some questions of my own, so I will start with Mr. Freitas, following on the order of the presentations. It's very common for us to hear the expression flag of convenience when people are actually referring to open registries. We see from your presentation that this is not the appropriate term. And we also have seen in all three presentations that the great majority of the world fleet is concentrated in the Panama, Ilhas Marshall, and Liberia that are considered open registries, and that those registries actually have an excellent performance in port state control inspections. So to the extent of your knowledge, can you comment to us what's the origin of this expression, flag of convenience, and why it's still being used today?
Okay, thank you for the question, Juliana. And before I start, I'd like to thank Captain Nogueira for bringing the attention for the numbers, the figures for the Viña del Mar agreement. And again, I was very glad to see the Marshall Islands as the top performer in the Viña del Mar agreement as well. So thanks, Nogueira, for confirming. But anyway, we can find several definitions for flag of convenience, which is a term used since the 1950s. All are very similar. But I would highlight the one from the ITF, which is the International Federation of Transport Workers, which defines basically flags of convenience as when the beneficiary ownership and control of the ship are based in a country or countries other than the flag that the ship flies. Anyway, as a bit of history, in the 1920s, several laws were created in the USA and to strengthen its merchant marine. And these laws created an economic disadvantage for ship owners, and they decided to move their ships to Panama. So again, in the 1930s, the bad political situation in Europe provided considerable impetus for switching to open registers. And again, many European vessels were transferred to the Panamanian flag. It is worth noting that the original aim of the international campaign against open registries was to prevent loss of jobs for seafarers in the traditional European maritime countries, where high crew wages made shipping a less viable economic option. Anyway, to conclude, the flag of conviction categorization used by ITF mainly applies to open registers and a few international and also hybrid registers, as for example, the ITF has classified the French and the German international shipping registers as flags of convenience. So in order to summarize, I'd like to say that the term flag of convenience is an outdated concept, it not reflecting the good safety record of many flag states, as we saw during the presentation. And in these flag states, such as Marshall Islands and others, so they have a very, very good performances. So just confirming that the correct term is the open registry. So these are my comments, Juliana.
Thank you, Freitas. Very interesting to know this origin of the term. Now I have a question to Mr. Cigarruista. You talk about in your presentation a lot about new technologies, and also you pointed out that we have an increase in accidents in the last years. What I want to ask you is there any clues on why this is happening? You mentioned briefly maybe the time that crew members are on board, but also what can be done to reverse this trend? Because as technology increase, what we would expect is that actually navigation is safer and not that we see more accidents happening.
Thank you, Juliana. Question. Yeah, I mean, according to the numbers or according to our investigations, the incidents or accidents are increasing on board vessels entirely in the context of the international merchant fleet, which is very important to understand. I do have the numbers in Panama because we control that info. However, I'm not sure what is happening on the rest of the fleet, right? That's why we are taking this point to the IMO, because that should be the forum where everybody share what is happening. Actually, there is a platform, there is a JICIS platform where we as a flag state should share information related to marine casualties, and we should see it and analyze the root causes on each of the accidents, right? To try to implement actions, solutions, recommendations. Probably we will come out with new regulations. Probably we have to review the actual regulation or modify what is being included on any convention approved at the IMO. This is one part of the situation. In other hands, as I said during my presentation, due to the pandemic, we have introduced in a broad concept remote surveys, remote inspections, remote audits. We have to think about it. Surveyors are made to go on board, you know, in a sense of feeling the vessel, walk around the vessel. You know, if you go around the main deck or if you go around the engine room of the vessel, the smell, the noise, the way the crew is dressing, the way you have the panoramic vision of the vessel, since you walk on the pier, since you walk through the gangway, once you go on board the vessel. We cannot, you know, take this out the picture. Port State Control was not able to go on board during the peak of the pandemic. You have seen the reduction numbers. I mean, in 2019, we received in our fleet over 16,000 inspections. At the end of 2020, we got a bit more than 10,000, if I'm not mistaken. Now, in the middle of 2021, we have 6,000 plus. So numbers are there. In some countries, still the pandemic in a very dramatic way, so they cannot go on board. Flag inspections cannot be performed either. Recognized organization or classification societies cannot go on board. And now there is in a fashion way, they are introducing the concept of remote visits. So, you know, we have to think about it. This is not like a fancy way of doing the job. We have to go on board. And if you ask me, last but not least, because the analysis is still in progress, we are asking the crew members to stay longer than expected on board. Countries which still not providing solutions, so, you know, to crew members, they have to think about it. They have to declare them as a key, you know, as a key employees. They have to facilitate their way of traveling, the quarantine. Of course, they have to comply with the quarantine, but they don't need to be 14 days in a hotel or 14 days isolated. Not today. That was at the beginning of the pandemic. People is getting vaccinated around. You know, there are some countries which are not having this long period of quarantine. Actually, here in Panama, we have just 3 days, for instance. And in some situations, we don't even ask for quarantine at this stage. In the US, if you go to Miami, you go and you walk just through the airport and you go outside. You know, so the entire world has to think about it and has to replant the way they are doing, you know, this kind of thing. So at the end of the day, I think all these factors are the ones creating this, or are the ones, you know, providing the proper scenario to the accidents on board the vessel. You know, different percentage, different influence on each of them, but at the end you have the numbers, and numbers do not lie, right? So we have to think, we have to sit and evaluate all this situation. But again, as an industry, this is not the responsibility of Marshall Island, Liberia, or Panama. No, this is the responsibility of the entire International Maritime Organization. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very good alert, and let's see how things evolve from now. I have a question now to Nogueira. Thank you for your presentation in relation to port state control. Question that I have is how the vessels that will be inspected are actually selected. They are prompted by some reporting, it's related to vessels age, flag, or it's just a randomic selection. And also specifically in relation to the Viña del Mar, I see that one of the principles is that vessels are not subject to inspections in periods of less than 6 months. And then how is this control between states carried out?
Okay, many questions in one only question. Let's by part. Currently, after the meeting of the members of Viña del Mar agreement, a new inspection index was created, which classifies the vessels into low, medium, and high levels of inspection needing. In other words, it is a mathematical calculation by the information technology system that indicates that the pattern in percentage terms of the ship's current conditions. For example, among 10 ships to be inspected, the one with the highest level of the condition is chosen. So we have I don't know in specific in Ilhas Marshals and Panama how does it work, but in other replying another questions, there is in accordance IMO resolution 1138 the obligation to communicate the detention to the detention reports of to the flag state, and the level that sufficient detail to release an assessment in that country, in that flag state, to verify the severity of the deficiency giving rise to the detection. And second, and the last one, all inspection ships go to the database of the Secretariat of Viña del Mar Agreement, and choose the port state control of member states can have access to this database and verify if needs to to be inspected. Bear in mind that the new inspection regime, okay, that was created this year at the early of the 2021. So we have a lot of different frameworks to choose the navig for the ship for inspection. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. I think we reached here the end of our time. I see there's one question in the chat that is specifically addressed to Mr. Cigarruista. So that's related to what are Panama, as the largest flag state, planning to tackle the issue of abandonment of vessels. So Rafael, if you can reply shortly, or send your reply directly to the person that's asking, that will be fine.
I will try to do it shortly and in a simplified manner. We are on daily basis in communication with the International Maritime Organization, the ILO, and the ITF. There is a group created under the umbrella of the IMO, and we are following and monitoring all situations once the vessels are declared abandoned. We are trying to deal through the P&I clubs to pay the salaries and the repatriation of the crew. And of course, in some cases, it's not that easy. I will not give the name of the country or the vessel, but in one case, we have one vessel which is abandoned in one of the European countries, but due to the nationality of the crew, the local authorities do not allow the crew to be repatriated. So the vessel has been there for almost 2 years, and now we have this situation. Like I said before, the solution is not only in one side. We have to work together. If you have these kind of obstructions in the middle of the road, we will not be able to help the guys. You know, now the P&I clubs pay only 4-month salaries. They have been on board for over 1.5 years. Who is gonna pay the salaries? We can pay the repatriation, but the country do not allow them to be repatriated. We cannot take the vessel and go at sea with the crew, you know, going to another country where the crew can be repatriated. So, you know, everybody has a play or a role here, and that's why Panama is dealing with this on daily basis, monitoring, following up, and taking actions on each of the ship owners which are not you know, following or in compliance with the responsibility which is demanded from them. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, I have no more time. So thank you all. We'll have to continue this at another moment. So Lucas, the floor is back to you.
Thank you, Juliana, and thanks once again for these qualified speakers and for the information you have presented. You certainly made us open a little bit our minds to all the regulations, commitments, and seriousness of the work performed by the maritime authorities and these international open registries. We thank you once again for your participation, and also to all the participants here as well. We will be happy to host other future events of similar nature. I would also have certainly a lot of questions further to ask, so we will just have to plan ahead our agenda for future events. It will be a pleasure to host other events and share knowledge and among our community. And we hope everybody to stay safe, stay well, and see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.